We all do these 4 things on some level to some degree. And I don't want you to blame yourself. I want to help make you aware of these 4 things before it actually destroys your relationship. You know, the clothes on the floor where your partner sprinkles and leaves all the clothing and the laundry all over the house, all over the bedroom, and you start getting so frustrated. And the minute you see it, you almost feel the sudden rush of blood to their head and you explode and you criticize them. And you tell them how inconsiderate they are, how lazy they are, how selfish they are. You have a mini meltdown about something so trivial. Clothes left on the floor. In truth, it's just the last straw that broke the camel's back. People are going to do things that you don't like. Likewise, you're going to do things that other people don't like. What is important is how you go dealing with those things. Now I'm going to describe these things that we do, these behaviors that we all do. And we actually don't even realize how dangerous they are and the impact it has on a relationship. The one is constant blame or criticize. We keep on you, telling them what they should do, what they ought to do, what they must do. Keep on criticizing. Nothing's good enough for you. All you see is things that irritate you and frustrate you about the individual. We go through those phases. We all get irritated with somebody else. So that is when we get hypercritical. We criticize. The second point is when we start taking people for granted. We don't notice the little things that they do. Waking up in the morning with a nice cup of tea. We've forgotten those random acts of kindness, those small acts of kindness that we receive from our partner. And one clear way to know it is that you get so angry when they leave the clothes on the floor. We get so irritated. And we forget all the good things that they actually do for us. And there's so many other good things that they actually do. It's like finding that small little black spot on a massive white sheet. Hyper focused on the things that they do that we don't like, where there's all this other good, the periphery. So that's taking somebody for granted. The next one is defensiveness. We try and rationalize and give them a reason why we're doing things. And you know that expression, the best form of defense is attack. What happens is that the minute somebody tries to highlight something, which is for our own good, it's actually a gift. They're giving us an absolute gem, giving us feedback on something that they like or something they don't like. If they start sharing information with you, instead of being defensive, take it as a gift. And my pet hates stonewalling. When your partner withdraws and just gives you the absolute cold shoulder, does not communicate with you, doesn't interact with you, and sometimes it may take a while before you actually twig on that they're stonewalling you. Now I've had this experience. One of my ex-partners was classical stonewaller. He refused to engage in anything. He would just simply refuse to talk about anything that he didn't feel comfortable about. And I realized that he was incapable of dealing with conflict. His way of dealing with it was to just avoid it, blankly avoid it, avoid anything that was difficult to discuss. Just pretend it doesn't happen. These behaviors all lie in one truth, and that's the inability to deal with conflict in a very constructive, skillful manner. So conflict can either grow you or it can destroy your relationship. So if you're handling conflict, you're dealing with either being absolutely critical of your partner and blaming them for everything, if you're taking them for granted and being negative about all those things that you don't like, and if you're getting defensive with any criticism, and if you stonewall and avoid the fight at all costs, then you don't deal with conflict in a constructive way. Now I'm going to break it down and teach you how to deal with each one of them, because we all do it at some level. So instead of blaming or criticizing, start internalizing and just express how this impacts you and how you feel, instead of pointing finger or criticizing your partner. So focus on you and how you feel. That's the starting point of this. Here's an example. So instead of getting into the blame game and getting all frustrated and shouting, "You are so inconsiderate, you selfish, you lazy," and start criticizing the person because they're leaving the laundry lying around the bedroom, rather stop and say, "I feel absolutely disrespected in our space when you leave your clothing lying around." So speak about what impacts you, how it makes you feel, instead of judging and criticizing them, because the way you feel is absolutely valid, but it has nothing to do about the way they're behaving. It is you who feels the way you feel. And by not blaming them is the first step in having that constructive version of a nice dialogue and conversation about things that can enhance and improve the relationship. So often we're so caught up in our own world that we take others for granted. So instead, start building opportunities and places to show your appreciation. Create a way within yourself that you're finding your partner doing something right, and catch yourself looking for the things that they do right, the things that you really, really appreciate, and express your gratitude and appreciation. But be specific and say, wonderful and warm it makes me feel. It makes me feel cared for when you bring me that cup of tea in the morning. My day just starts off on the right foot. So think of that person receiving that appreciation. When you suddenly tell them and start noticing the specific things that you appreciate about them, they're going to start feeling good about themselves. They're going to start wanting to do more for you because they're being appreciated. All of us want to feel appreciated. It's part of our nature. We enjoy being appreciated by our partners. That's a constructive way of handling things. Don't take somebody for granted. Coming back to that defensive nature where we start to defend our actions. Catch yourself before you get into a defense mode and look at the reality. You cannot invalidate how your partner's feeling. So stop yourself immediately the minute you want to defend and take accountability for the part that you play in them wanting to raise an issue. So instead of being defensive, when your partner raises something or somebody that you care about raises an issue about you, they may not be perfect. Well, we're not perfect either when we start to raise something. The first thought, you must stop yourself in your tracks and say, don't defend. They have the right to perceive something the way they have. Just like you have the right to express yourself and feel the way you feel. They're okay in expressing themselves and you're okay in being able to express yourself too. It doesn't mean you're right or wrong. It's their perception. It's how they view the world. And we're entitled to have our own opinions on matters. Let's put the shoe on the other foot. Now your partner has an issue with you leaving laundry lying around the room. So if they raise it that you're leaving your laundry lying around, you start becoming defensive and you start, well, you always leaving the garage in a mess. You don't take your dishes to the kitchen. And you start defending and finding fault with them. That's being defensive. So don't get all emotional about it. If they're upset about something, stop and have a look at the role you play. Ask yourself, is really that big a deal? They're getting upset with me leaving the laundry lying around the room. Can you not just refrain from leaving the laundry lying all over the bedroom? So look at the reality of the situation. Is there anything that you can take control of that's upsetting them and making them feel the need to talk to you about something? So accepting what they say and turning it into something that you can be accountable for is turning that conflict into a constructive feedback situation where the two of you can work together and have a harmonious relationship. Stonewalling. As I've mentioned, I was in a relationship where a partner, it was habitual of him to actually stonewall you. You'd ask a question, and I'll never forget the one situation where I was like kind of demanding and pushing and saying, please can you give me an answer? And he turned around and his response was to me, have you not got it by now? Are you that thick that you haven't got it by now? I don't deal with these matters. And I felt so insulted at that point in time, where it was something so innocent. I just wanted feedback. I just wanted to get some insight into how my partner was feeling. And instead, I got this absolute stonewalling. And I felt so humiliated. I felt like I was almost inferior at that point in time, like I was meaningless, that my opinion didn't matter. So what can you do instead of stonewall? First of all, if something triggers you off, that it actually invokes a very strong emotion within yourself, rather to say, listen, I'm feeling a little bit upset right now. I'll have this conversation in 5 minutes. Give yourself an opportunity to walk away, to collect it, to self-soothe, because obviously something your partner said has been triggered from something way before this relationship and you may not even be aware of it. So if something does trigger you and starts creating this huge emotional response and reaction with you, let it be a warning sign for you that you have some undealt with business that's now impacting your current day life. And don't fall into the trap of trying to manipulate them. In fact, it's emotional blackmail by stonewalling and not engaging in a dialogue or conversation with somebody because you're upset. They can't do anything about you being upset. All you can do is saying, listen, right now this has upset me. I need some time. Then walk away from that conversation and go do some self-soothing. Whatever it is that's going to make you feel better about yourself. And try and understand what it is. And when you're ready, go back and have that constructive conversation about how you're feeling, how it impacts you. So this is the difference with not being able to deal with conflict and constructively dealing with conflict. So ultimately, if you can't deal with these issues, it's going to impact your relationship and result in the destruction of your relationship. Or it's going to leave you in a very destructive pattern where you can't discuss things, you can't deal with issues, and you can't find a way that works for both of you. If this resonates with you, leave a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or something on a personal level, leave it in the comments section and I will respond to you personally. And if you don't want to miss any of my future videos, make sure to subscribe and turn the notifications on. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.